Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into Talabat.
Ooh, Talabat.
Yeah, if you're in the Middle East and you're hungry,
You know Talabat.
you know Talabat. We're going to be looking at
It's everywhere.
Menuville. It's a restaurant success blog, and they have a great guide to Talabat fees.
Okay.
So we're going to kind of dig into that and see what we can learn. Even if you're just a hungry customer and not a restaurant owner, you might be surprised at what you learn.
Right. Like even how those fees work. Maybe it'll change how you look at like the featured restaurants or the ones that always seem to have a discount.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why are they at the top? What's going on there?
Yeah. There's a lot going on behind the scenes with these apps.
So maybe to kick things off, you could tell us a little about Talabat. What is it? What does it do? Why is it so popular?
So at its core, Talabat is like a middleman connecting restaurants and customers. But it's more than just a simple listing. It offers features like order tracking and customer reviews, and they have options for restaurants to do promotions and stuff.
Okay.
And they often handle the whole delivery logistics piece, sometimes even with their own fleet of drivers.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's like a whole package deal.
Yeah. You could say it's a one-stop shop for getting that food from the kitchen to your doorstep.
So, and it's pretty huge in the Middle East and North Africa, right?
Yeah, it's huge. Like if you're in the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman, Qatar, Jordan, Egypt, Talabat's a big deal.
Okay. So it's no wonder I'm always getting Talabat notifications on my phone.
Right. It's everywhere.
Yeah. But, okay, so if a restaurant wants to get on Talabat
Hmm.
and tack into this massive network, what kind of fees are we talking about? Because obviously Talabat has to make money, right?
They do. They've got to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
So Talabat, they charge a few different kinds of fees. You've got commission fees, marketing fees, and sometimes even delivery fees too.
So it's not like a simple, like, here's $50 a month and you're on the platform.
No. It's more complicated than that.
Okay.
Some of the fees are flat, like maybe a monthly charge for being on the platform. But the one that really matters, the one that restaurants need to watch, is the commission fee.
Okay.
That's a percentage of each order that the restaurant has to pay to Talabat.
Okay, so that's where the big money is.
Yeah, the commission is where it's at. And that's where it can get tricky for restaurants,
Right, because that directly impacts their bottom line.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk numbers. What kind of percentages are we looking at?
Usually you're talking about somewhere between 15% and 35% of the total order value.
15% to 35%.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a pretty big chunk of change.
it is. So if someone orders like 100 dirhams worth of food, the restaurant might be paying 15 to 35 dirhams of that to Talabat.
Wow. Okay. That's kind of scary. As a restaurant owner, I would not like to see that.
Right. It's a lot. And every restaurant owner wants to know, like, how can I figure out what I'm going to have to pay?
Yeah.
Exactly. Is there like a formula? Can you predict it at all?
I wish there was a crystal ball for this, But there aren't any guarantees. There are some things that definitely affect those commission rates, though.
Okay.
For example, bigger chains, like think McDonald's,
Right.
they often get better rates because they just have such a huge volume of orders.
Yeah.
They might be paying something closer to like 18% commission, while a little independent place could be looking at 25%.
Right. So it's almost like bulk discount.
Pretty much, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So size matters. What about location? Like you said, they're all across the Middle East. Does that affect the rates at all?
Definitely. Every country's market is a little different. So here in the UAE, for instance, you're probably looking at 20% to 30% commission.
Okay.
But if you're in Egypt or Jordan, it might be 15% to 25%.
Oh, wow. Okay. So even within the region, there's a lot of variation.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. So as a restaurant, you're signing up to this platform and there's all this uncertainty.
Right.
Are there any ways to negotiate those rates at all? Or is it just like take it or leave it?
It's tough, but negotiating is possible.
Okay.
It helps if you've got some things working in your favor, though.
Yeah.
Like if you're a restaurant that just pumps out orders,
Yeah.
like you're a customer favorite.
Right.
You're in a better spot to ask for a lower rate.
Yeah.
You can go to Talabat and be like, hey, look at all these orders I'm bringing you.
Give me a break.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay. So you really got to prove your worth to them.
Yeah. You're not just another restaurant. You're bringing them value.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So besides order volume, is there anything else that can give you some leverage in those negotiations?
Yeah, like if your restaurant is already a well-known brand, that helps.
Okay.
If people are already searching for you specifically on Talabat,
Right.
that gives you some power. And you know what else can sweeten the deal sometimes?
What's that?
Exclusivity.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Explain that.
So if you tell Talabat, hey, I'm only working with you, no other delivery apps.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can get better terms because you're making that commitment.
Okay, so you're basically saying you're my one and only and hoping they like that.
Exactly. It can be a bit of a gamble, but it can work out well if they see you as a really valuable partner.
Right. Interesting. Okay. So size, location, brand recognition, exclusivity, these all feed into those commission rates. Is there anything else restaurants need to think about when it comes to these Talabat fees?
You're on the ball. There are definitely other things to consider. Like we've talked about how the restaurant's size impacts the commission rate.
Yeah.
But size also can affect other fees. Big chains, because they have so many orders, often end up getting discounts on other services that Talabat offers too.
Oh, okay. So it's like a volume discount across the board.
Pretty much, yeah, like buying in bulk.
Okay. And then what about like the type of food a restaurant serves? Does that matter at all?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. A fancy sushi place, they're going to have higher average order values than like a burger joint.
Right.
So that could influence the fees they get.
Interesting. I wonder if that makes it harder for like the more casual, affordable restaurants to like compete on the platform because they're working with tighter margins, right?
It's a valid point for sure. It's all about finding that balance, making sure that the partnership makes sense financially for both the restaurant and Talabat. You know?
Right. And speaking of that balance, are there any other fees or costs that like might not be obvious right away, kind of like hidden costs that restaurants need to be aware of?
Yes. The hidden costs. We've talked commissions, but there's also marketing to consider. If you want your restaurant to be like the first one that pops up when people search for, say, pizza, you got to pay for that.
Okay.
Talabat has things like sponsored listings and in-app promotions.
Right. I've seen those.
They can be effective, but
Right.
they can also cost a lot if you're not careful.
So it's like pay to play. The more you spend, the more visible you are.
In a way, yeah. And then there are things like, if you want professional photos taken of your food for your menu or if you need extra help with deliveries, those come with costs too.
Okay. So it really adds up. Anything else that like maybe people forget to factor in?
Don't forget about things like packaging and VAT and transaction fees.
Right.
Those all add up and can affect your bottom line if you don't keep track.
Okay. So, wow, even though Talabat gives you access to all these customers, making it work financially seems like a real balancing act for restaurants.
It's a tightrope walk, for
Yeah.
sure. But before we talk about how to make that work, how to maximize your profits, I think it would be helpful to take a quick look at how Talabat stacks up against some of the other delivery platforms out there like Zomato and Deliveroo.
Yeah. I'm curious, with all these fees and stuff, have restaurants, started looking at other options? Have any restaurants jumped ship and gone to Zomato or Deliveroo?
Absolutely happens all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of restaurant owners are asking themselves that very question these days.
Yeah.
Talabat's a big name, but Zomato and Deliveroo are definitely in the game too.
Right.
And knowing how they compare could be really helpful if you're a restaurant trying to make the best choice.
Okay, so let's compare. What are the main differences between these three big players?
Well, let's start with those all-important commission fees.
Yeah, that's the big one.
So Zomato, they usually charge somewhere between 18% and 30%,
Okay.
which you'll notice is a little lower than Talabat's range.
Yeah, it is.
But here's the thing. They often encourage restaurants to handle their own deliveries.
Oh, okay.
So you might save a little on commission, but you're taking on more responsibility.
Right, so it's a trade-off. Interesting, okay. And what about Deliveroo? How do they compare?
Deliveroo, they're kind of known for focusing on like premium partnerships.
Okay.
And they've got a really strong delivery network. Their commission rates are usually similar to Talabat's, like 25% to 35%.
Yeah.
But they're more likely to charge higher commissions for like premium listings or exclusive partnerships.
Oh, okay, so if you're like a fancy restaurant
Yates.
and you want to be seen as like exclusive,
Exactly.
Deliveroo might be a good fit, even if it costs you a bit more.
It's all about your brand and your target customer.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got Zomato, potentially cheaper on commissions, but more work for the restaurant.
Right.
And then Deliveroo, the premium option, catering to a specific market.
Yeah. And Talabat's kind of in the middle.
Right, right. So ultimately, it sounds like the best platform really depends on the individual restaurant's needs and goals.
100%. There's no one right answer. It depends on your location, your customers, your business model,
Right. But no matter which platform a restaurant chooses, they need to be smart about managing those fees, right?
Oh, absolutely. Got to make sure you're making a profit.
Yeah. So let's get practical. What are some proven tactics that restaurants can use to keep those fees in check and actually make money on these platforms?
Well, remember all those things we talked about earlier, like order volume, brand recognition, exclusivity.
Hmm.
Those are your negotiation tools. If you're a restaurant that's consistently bringing in a lot of orders, you've got more power to negotiate a better commission rate.
Okay.
You can go to Talabat and say, hey, look, I'm valuable to you. Let's make this work for both of us.
Right. So it's about showing them your worth, not just being another restaurant on the list.
Exactly. And don't go in blind. Do your homework. Before you even start talking, gather data on your average order value, your order volume.
Okay.
That way you can show them with numbers what you bring to the table.
Okay, so it's like a salary negotiation. Come prepared.
Right. Be prepared. But negotiation is just one part of the puzzle, you know.
Yeah. What else can restaurants do?
Marketing. That's another key to success on these platforms.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned that before.
Talabat offers all kinds of features that can help restaurants get more visibility and attract more customers, like sponsored listings.
Right. Those are the ones that show up at the top of the search results.
Yeah, like prime real estate on the app.
Okay. But obviously those sponsored listings cost money.
They do. So you have to be strategic.
Right.
You don't just want to throw money at it blindly.
Okay. So what's the smart way to do it?
Think about targeted promotions. Like offer a limited time discount or a special deal that's really enticing.
Hmm.
That way you're attracting new customers or encouraging your regulars to order more.
Right. So you create a sense of urgency, maybe get people to order a little more than they normally would.
Exactly. And all those extra orders can help balance out those commission fees.
Okay. So it's not just about spending money on marketing. It's about spending it wisely.
Exactly. Being smart about it. And you know what else can be really powerful?
What's that?
Loyalty programs.
Oh, yeah. I love those.
Everyone loves a good loyalty program.
Mm.
They're a fantastic way to build a strong customer base, those people who keep coming back for more. And remember, it's always more expensive to get a new customer than it is to keep an existing one happy.
Right. Makes sense.
So if you've got a loyalty program that rewards people for ordering from you,
Yeah.
give them points or discounts or special perks,
Hmm.
it's a win-win. They feel appreciated, and you get those repeat orders.
Yeah, like a little VIP club for your best customers. I like that.
Exactly.
But even with all these strategies, there's still that big question. Should a restaurant stick with Talabat, or is it time to go to a competitor or maybe even go solo?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And there's no easy answer.
Right.
It really comes down to the numbers. You got to be honest with yourself. Are the benefits of being on Talabat outweighing the costs?
Okay.
If you're doing everything right, negotiating fees, doing smart marketing, optimizing your menu, and your profit margins are still super thin,
Hmm.
it might be time to rethink that partnership.
Right. Okay. So it's not about being loyal to Talabat. It's about making the best choice for your business.
Yeah.
But leaving a platform like that can be scary, right? What if you lose customers?
It's a risk, for sure. But sometimes focusing on building your own direct channels is the best move.
Okay.
If you've got a strong online presence, a good website, a loyal social media following,
Mm-hmm.
you might be able to rely less on those third-party platforms.
Right.
It's like taking back control, being the master of your own destiny.
Yeah, I like that. So it's about diversification, not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe by focusing on your own channels, you'll end up in a better position to negotiate with Talabat later on.
Right, right. Interesting. Okay. So we've talked a lot about the financial side of things, but I'm sure there are other pros and cons to working with a platform like Talabat, things that aren't just about the money.
Oh, definitely. There's a whole lot more to consider.
Okay. So let's zoom out a little. What are some of the non-financial benefits and drawbacks of partnering with Talabat?
Well, I think one of the biggest advantages is reach, right?
Yeah, we talked about how huge they are.
Talabat has a massive network of customers, especially here in the Middle East and North Africa.
Right.
So for a restaurant, especially a new one that's trying to get its name out there, that kind of visibility is priceless. It's like having a giant spotlight shining on you, helping hungry customers find you.
Yeah, it's instant access to a huge audience. And that access comes with tools, right? Like we've discussed the marketing stuff, but what about like operational support? Does Talabat help with that at all?
Yeah, for sure. Like for restaurants that don't have their own delivery drivers, Talabat can connect them with their network of drivers.
Oh, okay.
It takes a lot of the logistical pressure off the restaurant. They can focus on making the food, and Talabat handles getting it to the customers.
That's a huge perk. No need to worry about hiring drivers and all that.
Right. And another benefit is that Talabat's platform is really user-friendly.
Okay.
It's easy for restaurants to manage orders, update their menus, track their performance, all in one place.
So it streamlines things, makes it easier for restaurants to stay organized.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got increased visibility, access to a delivery network, a streamlined interface. It's starting to sound like a pretty good deal, but I know there have to be some downsides too. What are some of the challenges restaurants might face when working with Talabat?
Well, one of the biggest ones is the lack of control over customer data.
Okay.
When a customer orders through Talabat, the restaurant doesn't necessarily get their contact info or their order history.
Oh,
So it
right.
makes it harder to build those direct relationships with your customers.
Yeah, you can't really market to them outside of Talabat or anything like that.
Exactly. It's like Talabat's the gatekeeper, controlling the flow of information.
Yeah, and I can see how that would be frustrating for restaurants that want to build their own brand and connect directly with their customers.
It can be. And that lack of control extends to other areas too.
Okay.
When you're relying on a third-party platform like Talabat, you're kind of at their mercy,
Mhm.
If they change their fees or their algorithms or their features, you just have to adapt.
Okay.
You don't have a lot of say in it.
Right, so there's that trade-off again.
Huh?
You get access to a huge audience and all these tools, but you lose some control.
Exactly. It's a complex equation.
It really is. And it makes me wonder, are there ever times when a restaurant should just say, you know what, Talabat, it's not you, it's me, we're done?
Sometimes breaking up is the right thing to do.
Okay.
If those fees are just killing your profits, no matter what you do, it might be time to walk away.
Right.
And also, if you've already built a strong customer base through your own channels,
Okay.
like your website or social media or just good old word of mouth,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you don't need Talabat as much anymore.
Yeah. Okay. And of course, if a better alternative comes along.
Right. If someone else offers a better deal,
Yeah.
it makes sense to switch.
So it's really about what's best for the individual restaurant.
Yeah, each restaurant has to figure out what works for them.
Right. But what if a restaurant wants to stay on Talabat, but also explore other options at the same time? Like, can they be on multiple platforms?
Oh, for sure. Lots of restaurants do that.
Oh.
It helps them diversify, reach different customers, and not be totally dependent on just one platform.
Makes sense. But I imagine managing multiple platforms can be a lot of work.
It's a juggling act, for sure. You got to keep track of the different fees, different marketing options, different orders coming in from everywhere.
Right. That sounds like a headache.
It can be. But for some restaurants, it's worth it to maximize their reach and sales.
Yeah. Okay. So it all comes down to finding the right balance, the right strategy for each individual restaurant.
Exactly. No two restaurants are the same.
Right.
So there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Okay. But by understanding the nuances of each platform, the costs, the benefits, the strategies for success, restaurants can make informed decisions and hopefully thrive in this crazy food delivery world.
It's a wild world out there, that's for sure.
It is. But before we wrap up this discussion about the big platforms, I want to take a little detour and talk about a trend I've been noticing: the rise of niche food delivery platforms.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like platforms that cater to specific dietary needs or cultural preferences, or maybe even have like a local focus.
It's definitely a thing. We've got the big giants like Talabat and Zomato and Deliveroo, but there's this growing appetite for something a little more specialized,
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the food delivery scene is becoming more diverse.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Like I'm picturing a platform that's all about vegan tacos, or one that delivers authentic Emirati food, nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. Like each platform has its own little niche, its own community.
Yeah. Catering to specific tastes, specific values,
Okay, so what's driving this trend? Why are these niche platforms popping up everywhere?
I think, well, on the customer side, I think there's a growing awareness of how our food choices impact things, like our health, the environment, supporting local businesses.
Yeah.
People are becoming more mindful, more intentional about where their food comes from.
So it's not just about convenience anymore.
No, it's about making choices that align with your values.
I like that.
And for restaurants, I think there's a desire to break free from those big platforms,
Okay.
to connect directly with customers who really appreciate what they're doing.
Right, so they're not just another listing on a massive app.
Exactly. These niche platforms give those smaller restaurants, the ones with a specific focus, a chance to stand out.
Okay, so it's a win-win for both sides.
Yeah, I think so.
Customers get more specialized options, and restaurants can really connect with their ideal customers.
Right. It's all about finding your people.
But let's be real, starting a new platform from scratch is no easy task.
No, it's not. It's tough.
What are some of the challenges these niche platforms are facing?
Well, visibility is a big one.
Okay.
It's hard to compete with those giants with their huge marketing budgets, and everyone already knows their names.
Yeah, you're up against the big guys.
Right. It's like David versus Goliath.
So these smaller platforms have to get creative.
They do. It's all about word of mouth, social media, partnering with local businesses, really hustling.
Okay. And besides marketing, are there other hurdles they have to overcome? What about like building a reliable delivery network?
Logistics are definitely a challenge.
Yeah,
A lot of these smaller platforms can't afford to build their own fleet of drivers.
right.
So they have to find other solutions, like partnering with existing delivery services or having the restaurants handle their own deliveries.
Okay, so they got to get creative there too. But despite those challenges, do you think these niche platforms have the power to like disrupt the industry? Could they actually challenge the dominance of those big players?
I think they could. I really do.
Okay.
They're tapping into something that people are craving, That focus on specialization, on community, on values.
Yeah.
It resonates with people.
So it's like a slow and steady revolution.
Maybe. And as they gain momentum, who knows? Maybe they'll even start attracting restaurants that are fed up with the big platforms.
Right. The restaurants that are tired of those high fees.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's an exciting time to be watching this space.
It really is. It makes me think, if I were a restaurant owner trying to choose a platform, what would my top priorities be? What would I be looking for?
For me, well, first and foremost, I'd want to make sure our values aligned.
Okay.
Like if my restaurant is all about sustainability,
Right.
I want to partner with a platform that also cares about that.
Yeah. So it's like an extension of your brand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I'll be looking at their audience.
Okay.
Are they reaching the people who are most likely to love my food? Is there a good match there?
Yeah. You got to find your people. And of course, you can't forget about the financial side of things.
Of course not. I'd definitely be crunching the numbers,
Yeah.
looking at their fees, their marketing options, and making sure it's a sustainable partnership.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've gone from the nitty-gritty of commission rates to the bigger picture of how this whole industry is evolving.
It's been a wild ride.
It has. Hopefully our listeners have a better understanding of how these platforms work, the challenges and opportunities they present for restaurants,
Yeah.
and maybe even like a new appreciation for the whole food delivery experience.
I hope so.
So next time you're scrolling through those apps and deciding what to order, take a moment to think about all the people and the technology and the passion that goes into getting that food to your doorstep.
It really is amazing when you think about it.
It is. All right, that's a wrap for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and happy eating, everyone.
Happy eating.